Hey, look, slightly more professional appearing now. Got the dry hair and straightened hair. So, time for our very first PowerPoint. If you've already looked on Moodle, which presumably you have since you're watching this video, and that's the main location to find it. Well, I mean, it's also on the YouTube channel, but chances are you're going to start with Moodle. You will have noticed that I have the book PowerPoints already there. I have not changed these PowerPoints at all because they're kind of simple, and I didn't feel the need to delete any like I tend to do with some of the other publications. So if you wish to just look at the PowerPoints, you're welcome to. It's under the folder that says book PowerPoints. Clearly, I'm going to just like yammer along with it, but a huge portion of this course is literally going to be you reading. You need to be reading the textbook. So this is going to be the presentation for chapter 1. So chapter 1 is just starting this whole thing off. So this is just your food choices and human health. Each of these, it's going to start off with the learning objectives. I have not put the learning objectives into the weekly details. I'm considering it just so it's all in one place, but they will always be at the beginning of your PowerPoints so you know what it is you are supposed to have gained from going through the entire chapter. All right. I love this whole icebreaker, and I really wish we were in person for this. We all know we should eat healthy when we can, but often we make less healthy choices. What contributes to our choice of foods? This is a good question. We have actually in Bio 124, we talked about this a lot. And it's a good thing to think about. And you might see it as a question on something one day, just so you know. I'm leaving it there to let you think of it. So, lifetime of nourishment. What makes a healthy or a diet healthy? It's going to be having the stuff that your body literally needs, not just what you want, but what your body needs. So nutrition is the science and study of how the food nourishes the body. Your diet is what you consume. So when you talk about your diet, it doesn't mean you are on a diet. Everybody has a diet. And this word has been misused so much that it causes a lot of confusion. Diet is simply what you are consuming. That's it. The types of food you choose affect how healthy you are, both physically and mentally and emotionally. Believe it or not, all of that is connected. And throughout the entire term and textbook, we're going to cover all of this. Best foods. Well, your best foods are to support your body's growth and maintenance. So your better choices are going to lead to a healthier mind and body. Then there is malnutrition. This one we definitely go into in more depth later in the term. But the main thing is first to understand malnutrition means deficiency, imbalance, and excess nutrients. Some people don't realize excess nutrients is malnutrition, because how could having too many be malnutrition? Well, mal as in bad. So for those of you who are also in medical terminology, right there, this is where you actually use your root words to figure out what it means. Malnutrition does not mean just starving. It means bad nutrition. Okay, lifestyle habits. The bad ones, the ones that can affect you tremendously or help make you healthier. Smoking and tobacco use brings it down. Alcohol use brings it down. Diet. If you have a healthy diet, it can bring you up. If you have a bad diet, it can bring you down. So it depends on what your diet is. Sleep. Dude, you need it. This whole weird American ridiculous pride on how little sleep we get is stupid, and it's unhealthy. Your body requires sleep. I mean, like, I am known to constantly compare things to babies and toddlers because they have the most energy. Would you ever tell a 2-year-old, no, you can't sleep, we have too much to do? No, because you know that kid's going to have a meltdown. Why do you not make the connection that as adults, it's the same thing? We still require the sleep. Anyway, we'll go into more detail on that later. Stress. Stress is a killer. Like, there you go. It's the little death. Stress will sit there and slowly eat away at you because the stress not only puts undue stress on your heart, but it actually changes how your body will process things. And your body can convert more stuff into sugars and bad stuff for you. I'm not saying that sugars themselves are all bad, but stress can convert it to where it will raise your A1C and make you more likely to become pre-diabetic or diabetic. Not just the food, but because you're overclocked. You have to learn to manage your stress in a proper and healthy manner. And then physical activity. Physical activity actually helps a lot with the stress and the sleep, just so you know. Physical activity, super important. And again, here in the US, for some reason, we have people like, well, I don't have time for that. Walk, just do some walking. Needless to say, that's why I'm stressing about this whole surgery on my foot, because I won't be able to walk around as much. And that's anyway. Then we have chronic diseases. Chronic diseases means it just keeps on going. So in 2020, the infectious disease COVID-19 ranked third among causes of US deaths. That was in 2020. It actually kept climbing. How it tends to be: heart disease, usually our number one killer, because we suck at diet and nutrition and exercise and stress and sleep. The American way is pretty much the unhealthy way. And it would be nice if we could sway the American way to be the healthy way. But in order to do that, you have to learn what it is, make your changes, and then, spread it on. So, genetics, nutrition, and individuality. Not all diseases are equally influenced by diet. So, if you have sickle cell, you got the genes for sickle cell, your diet's really not going to help sickle cell. Diabetes, if you are born with diabetes, then nutrition is not going to help. If you are not born with diabetes, then it may help, because in Bio 123, I believe it is, we talk about epigenetics, and that's where this comes into play. A lot of things that we might be genetically predisposed to be super sensitive to, we can actually fix through our diet with our choices of what we do. That brings us down to the personalized nutrition. Each person has a generic that is good for them, and then a very individual. So an example here: mushrooms, absolutely wonderful food. They are phenomenal. They have so many health benefits. They tend to be higher in vitamin D. They are great for anti-inflammatory. There are so many good things about mushrooms. However, I'm highly allergic to mushrooms. So if someone were to try to tell me how to take better control of my inflammatory issues, they can't tell me to eat mushrooms. Pretty sure it wouldn't help with the inflammation if you're allergic to it. So personalized nutrition is just as important as the generalized nutrition. All right, so that brings us to a discussion. Despite evidence linking certain behaviors with chronic diseases, many Americans continue to engage in unhealthy behaviors. What can you do as a student to improve health behaviors? Well, this is something, well, I'm about to give you an answer, by the way, but this is something you can be thinking about with your nutrition diary that you're going to be keeping up with, because it's the reason why we are starting week 1 with you just being honest. So then as you learn, you can decide which things you want to change bit by bit. And we're going to cover why bit by bit in a second too, in order to improve your health behavior. That's so funny. I said I was going to give you an answer, and I swear I thought I had one there. But that's pretty much it. You are going to have to start changing. Why do many Americans continue to engage in unhealthy behaviors? Ask yourself. We have had this talk in Bio 124. We talked about nutrition a lot. And there were a number of times where I said, this is the healthier option. And somebody, yes, I'm looking right at you, just so you know, somebody kept saying, but I don't want that. I like the white bread. It tastes better. So those are some of the unhealthy behaviors. Just because you want it, you're making a choice at that particular moment. Do you want what you want? Or do you want to be healthier and slowly adjust? It doesn't mean picking the worse food. It means you have to change your brain, basically. And that's also why small steps. But instead of picking the white bread, pick the wheat bread. You can even do steps over there. Do, the white bread, then the enriched white bread, and then the lighter wheat to eventually get to the whole wheat. And you can do little step by little step. As soon as you stop doing the little kids stomp my foot, but I want this thing, and go, hey, this is really good too. You are in charge of what you do here. And a lot of your health changes has to start right here. You have to want it and make the effort and stop saying that it's worse or, but I like this better. If you get rid of that mentality, you can actually make much better changes. The average American, for the most part, just wants what they want, and they want to just scoot like this and pretend like it doesn't matter. So anyway, human body and its food. We have 6 classes of nutrients. Food provides energy and 6 classes of nutrients. So we have carbohydrates, which includes the sugars, fats, both saturated and unsaturated, protein, and yes, vegetables also contain protein. So protein does not mean meat. Meat has protein, yes, but protein is more than just meat. Vitamins, minerals, and water. Yes, water. So those of you who have heard me go on and on and on about water, and you're like, but I don't like the taste of water. I don't like water. But if I do this and add this into it, that's good, right? Well, it's better than no water. But yes, water is something your body desperately needs, and it is a nutrient. Energy yielding nutrients. Calories are the units used to measure the energy in food. And so the more calories there are, that counts as the more energy that's supposed to be in said food. We have our macronutrients. Macro is for large. So this is going to be carbohydrate, fat, protein, that kind of thing. Alcohol is not a nutrient. However, it still contains plenty of energy, calories. So if you take a look here, the energy nutrient and the energy. So for the carbohydrates, it's the equivalent of approximately 4 calories per gram. For a fat, it's about 9 calories per gram, and protein about 4 calories per gram. This is the reason why fat tends to have more calories, more energy. Fat, if you've ever noticed the stuff that you burn for energy, it is a lipid. It's an oil, which is a fat. And so same thing for your body. I was trying to decide if I should go more into that, but no, I'm going to scooch on. All right. Here, this one I know, pretty sure we have the answers to after. Activity. Calculate the energy available from a bean burrito with cheese, which is 55 grams carbohydrate, 15 grams protein, and 12 grams of fat. Determine the percentage of calories from each of the energy nutrients. This way we can see just how much energy you are supposed to receive from this bean burrito with cheese. So I'm going to give you a moment. Hopefully you actually read or you have the book available so you can take a peek. I'm going to take just a moment and then I will show you the answers. So do 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 do. Do, 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 do. All righty, here we go. This is how you do it. For the bean burrito containing 388 calories, percentage of the calories from each of the nutrients, when you round it to the nearest whole number, it is 57% carbs, 15% protein, 28% fat. So how you do this, we already told you that it was 4 calories per gram for the carbohydrates and the proteins, 9 calories per gram for the fat. So what you do is you put it all together. So here, notice it said 55 grams carbs. So what is 55 times 4? I was just realizing, I wonder if I could actually, I don't think I can put the screen, like also do the calculator up there, but if you do 55 times 9, I totally went the wrong one. 55 times 4 would be 220 calories. So then if you do that divided by 388, you will get 0.567. So that would mean 56.7, rounded up 57%. So that's how you do it. So when you're asked something like this, you're told 388 calories, 55 grams of carbs. So again, 55 times 4 equals 220. 220 divided by 388 gives you, rounding up, 56 or 57%. Protein, we have 15 grams of protein, so 15 times 4 gives you 60. 60 divided by 388 gives you 0.154. So that would be 15% protein. Fat, it said 12 grams of fat. So 12 times 9 equals 108. 108 divided by 388 gives you 0.278, which rounds up to 28. So that is 28% fat. When you add 57 plus 15 plus 28, that should equal 100. That is how you calculate what percentage it is. This is a very good thing to practice because you're going to be doing this at some point this term, possibly a little bit on the exams, and definitely sometimes with your diary that you're doing. So understanding how to do this, extremely important. All right, why food is best. If you've talked to me, you know that I take supplements. I do. Dietary supplement is a pill, a liquid, a powder. It's something where they have put the stuff together for you for your consumption. Having it from your actual food, literally the best, because it has everything it needs and it's reliable to what's in there. The FDA does not actually approve the supplements. If you have a perfectly balanced diet, you should be getting everything you need. I'm going to come back to why I take supplements in just a second. But I will tell you 100% it is best for you to eat properly to get all of what you need from the whole foods. We have liquid nutritional supplements and meal replacers. I have some of this at home too. And I use a brand called Huel, Huel, because there are times where I know I'm not going to eat properly. And this one is plant-based and has everything in there. And it has been tested a whole lot and it shows a lot of promise. It's not as good as eating a real meal, but when there are occasions when you know you're not going to be able to eat, it's better to do this than to just not eat. Benefits of food, digestive health. Your body's supposed to break stuff down a specific way. And when you eat whole foods, your body is breaking it down the way it's supposed to. So it's actually being more bioavailable. It's breaking down and spreading through your body the proper way. Phytochemicals. You get these things called phytochemicals in a lot of your whole foods. I tend to talk about these a lot when I do my eat the rainbow thing, because you have different ones in different colored foods. And so this is why, if you've ever heard about having a palette or a colorful plate, or like I say, eat the rainbow, um, you have different phytochemicals appearing in the different foods. So like you have different stuff in carrots than you do blueberries, than you do broccoli. And having an assortment is better for your overall health. And I made a comment a second ago about bioavailability, bioactive, very similar, bio for life. And so the phytochemicals are bioactive. It helps kick everything into gear, for lack of a better phrase. Challenge of choosing foods. Whole foods. Well, I keep saying you need whole foods. I've said this over and over and over again. This means whole food. It means actual food. It doesn't mean don't cook it. I mean, raw food's good too, but it means the actual food. So like the apple instead of apple juice. Okay. The reason this is a good one is the apple in its raw form contains sugars, but it also contains fiber. When you juice it, you tend to actually consume way more. Old school juicers actually separated the fiber from the juice, and a lot of purchased juices will separate and it'll take only the juice, so you're not getting the fiber. If you are using the glorified blender juicers where it just pulverizes everything into a thick juice, the issue here is you tend to consume way more than you normally would, and so you get more sugar than you should. We'll cover that later. But whole foods means not adding things in. So to use the apple analogy, most people, when they get applesauce, it contains sugar. That's not as good for you as just the actual apple. This is what your whole diet should be based on, is actual whole foods. When you hear whole food, it means normally basic, like I was talking about, the apple, unprocessed, like the apple, natural, like the apple, or farm foods, like the apple. Okay, there's more than just apples, but you know, hey, I had it, I was running with it. Milk is included. You've milked the cow, it came from the animal, you didn't really do anything to it. However, I do highly recommend, if you can consume dairy, make sure it's pasteurized, which is technically processed, but it's going to kill off some of the bacteria that might not be good for you. 80% of the population consumes too few servings of fruits and vegetables each day. It's terrifying how undernourished most of the population is where fruits and vegetables are concerned. It is terrifying. Potatoes, as in French fries, it's the most common vegetable chosen. And once it's a French fry, it's really not all that healthy. And I know somebody in the class go, but that's what I like. That's fine. But that can't be the only vegetable. And then we have staple foods. Staple foods are the foods that you tend to use all the time. Glossary of food types. Are we going to go over all these? No. But I do recommend you read them, because understanding what each of these are, extremely important. Here's some more. So I'm going to talk a little bit in just a moment about processed versus ultra processed. Right here. So the difference between processed foods and ultra processed foods. Why is some degree of processing acceptable? And at what point does processing become unhealthy? Well, a moment ago, I was talking about juice. If you juice an apple and you have apple juice, that is processed, but that doesn't really mean it's bad. If you take said apple and turn it into a sparkly, sugared, fizzy beverage, that is ultra processed. Or here's an easier one. Say that you want some chips, some crisps, and you're at home, you've got an air fryer or an oven, whichever, and you take, yeah, we'll use the potato as an example. You're going to make potato chips. The potato is unprocessed. You slice it up, you toss it in a little bit of oil. I would use olive oil or avocado oil. Toss it in that, sprinkle a little salt or some cayenne, some kind of seasoning, and pop it into either the oven or the air fryer. And you make some chips, some crisps. Very yummy. That is processed. You have been in control of every part of it. That processed went a step down in the health level from the actual potato, but it's still perfectly good. And I have other examples in a minute, but this one, just go with me. Ultra processed would be going to the grocery store and buying a bag of chips. Look at, just say, Lay's potato chips. If you look at the ingredients, it is not just potato, oil, salt. There's other stuff there. All that other stuff is part of what makes it ultra processed, and that is part of what makes it unhealthy and not good for your body. And we have so much ultra processed, it's insane. There are people who will tell you nutrition wise that when you go grocery shopping to stay on the outskirts in order to have the healthier foods. Doesn't always work that way because the grocery stores know this deal, so they kind of blend them together, and it's very frustrating. Another example of processed versus ultra processed. Brussels sprouts. That's the one that popped into my head. So Brussels sprouts. When Brussels sprouts are in season, you can get them right in the produce department. Absolutely wonderful and healthy and great for you. If they're out of season and you're buying the sad looking ones that are there, they are not as nutritious because they're not in season. It's not the time to have these. They have traveled many, many miles and lost nutrients along the way. Processed would be frozen Brussels sprouts. So the frozen Brussels sprouts were picked at the peak of the season, highest nutrition level possible, but they're processed because they were frozen. But that's not bad. Do they even make canned Brussels sprouts? I don't know if they do. I should have used green beans as an example. So let's do green beans. Fresh green beans, great. Not in season, you're going to lose nutrients. Frozen green beans picked at the height of perfection and then frozen, bam, just like that. So it locks in the nutrients. Processed, still good for you. Canned green beans, totally different flavor, overly processed, not as good. So canned green beans are still better than no vegetable at all, but each extra step, you lose nutrients. So also, the more crazy ingredients you have on that ingredients list, the more processing. So nutritious diet is a dietary pattern. So you have 5 characteristics you're supposed to be going for. We have adequacy, balance, calorie control, moderation, and variety. These are the 5 things you're looking for in a nutritious diet. If you eat exactly the same thing every day, you don't have the variety, which means chances are you're losing some of the very key nutrients because not everything contains everything you need, if that makes sense. If you eat nothing but, say, burger and fries every day, you're going to get sick because you're missing some seriously important stuff. If you are vegetarian like me and you have a tendency to, I don't know, go crazy on broccoli all the time and eat a bunch of tofu, but not much else, I don't do that. I have done that in the past. It's not a good idea. But if I did that, I'm missing a huge category. Like I will be missing a lot of the vitamin D's by and the B vitamins by the elimination of meat and cheese and a whole lot of these other things. So variety is key. Am I saying you have to eat meat? No. Because clearly I'm not going to. But you have to be aware that you need a variety, which is also why, let me just throw this out there because we will cover vegetarian and vegan diets later in the term, and I just want to say it while it's fresh in my head, which is why when people say I tried to go vegetarian, but I didn't feel right, or I was so tired, blah, 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 that just means they eliminated meat. They didn't actually look at making sure they were still getting what they needed. Um, variety. You have to have a variety of foods. Moderation, you can't pig out. There's a lot of people who do the intermittent fasting. Scientifically, they have kind of discounted it as being helpful. It looked promising until it was out there long enough to look at long-term results where they discovered people who did intermittent fasting did not actually benefit any more than people who just kept track of their calories. And there were actually cases of, because there's different types of intermittent fasting, there were cases of people who ended up consuming way more calories than they should have in one sitting because they were doing the intermittent fasting of you could eat all you wanted in this window. That's not following the moderation thing. You're supposed to be eating throughout the day on a regular basis because your body is burning all the time. Your metabolism is running all the time. So you have to feed the fire to keep going. But moderation is key. You can't take huge chunks, but you also can't starve. Calorie control. Pay attention. Just because you like something doesn't mean that it's going to be good for you. So if your favorite meal contains like 2,000 calories in one sitting, chances are not a good choice. Not saying you're not supposed to have 2,000 calories in a day. What I'm saying is you're not supposed to have 2,000 calories in one sitting. Balance. Yeah, balance. You need the vitamins, you need the minerals, you need the water, you need the protein, you need the fat, you need the carbs. Any diet that tells you to cut one category out entirely is not a healthy diet. I don't care which diet it is. I don't care how much somebody says they lose weight. Losing weight is not indicative of a healthy diet. All you have to do is look at somebody who is diabetic before they get their diabetes under control. A lot of people, before they get diagnosed with diabetes, actually lose a lot of weight because their body's in ketosis. But even though they outwardly look so healthy, inside their entire body is shutting down. So using weight loss as proof that it is a good nutritional choice, not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. So balance, you need all of those 6 things represented that we went over earlier. And adequacy, again, you have to consume enough of each of the categories. That means you do need to have enough protein. That's my hardest one. You have to have enough fats. You can't cut them out. You have to have enough carbohydrates. Yeah, you have to keep carbs in your diet if you wish to be healthy. You have to have enough water. You have to have enough vitamins, enough minerals. You need enough of everything you're supposed to have. Now, coming all the way back to that very first thing about why people choose foods. Well, there's a whole lot of reasons. So here is a chunk. What we should be concentrating on is the nutrition and health benefits. That's the last thing most people look at. Normally, it has to do with how you were brought up. So say every time you were sick, grandma made you grilled cheese and a tomato soup. Or every time it was cold, grandma made grilled cheese, tomato soup, something like that. You have this warm and fuzzy feeling every time you have grilled cheese and tomato soup. Whenever you start to feel bad, you're going to gravitate towards grilled cheese and tomato soup. It's not that that's a bad choice, but the grilled cheese may be higher in saturated fats than is good to do very often. The tomato soup, once I get you to start looking at nutrition labels, you will find the condensed tomato soups all contain way more sugar than you would ever have thought of. Big one, availability and cost. Oh, good Lord, you people have been grocery shopping. You know, this stuff is expensive. And if you're broke, you have to pick what you can afford. Again, I've talked in class about being so broke. We were like striving to reach poverty. We were so broke. And we lived on ramen noodles and frozen mixed vegetables. Not the healthiest of choices, but we could afford it. And that is a huge one. Then, of course, we've got the advertising and the social norms and stuff like that. God knows there are all these jokes about how to tell a vegan or a vegetarian because they're going to tell everybody and blah, 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 blah. I told you because we're talking nutrition and we're going to talk about food. I don't walk up and introduce myself as a vegetarian because it's not your business. It's my choice. When it finally comes up, and more often than not, it's because somebody's offering me food that I don't eat. I get one of two responses from people. I either get the, oh, I don't really eat that much meat. Like I'm judging them. I don't give a crap what you eat. I really don't. I make my choices. Or I get the, huh. And then people talk down to me for it and act like I am clueless. It's really weird. I don't know why people are so judgmental about other people's choices. My own cousin slams on me when she sees me checking the nutrition labels because I'm trying to keep the saturated fats and the added sugars as low as possible. She will push me to try to get me to eat things that I have chosen not to eat because I want to be healthier. And it's weird, but there you go. Society can try to push you into what they want you to eat. And I've decided it's because they want to eat what they want to eat and they don't want to feel guilty about it. And so they try to make you feel wrong for making a choice that's healthier for your own body, which is just, again, weird. Emotional comfort, habit, and weight. Oh, good Lord, that one. So many people, we all have comfort foods. We do. Habit, you're just used to eating it. Like I remember one of the last days, Bio 124, some people were talking about food, and one person was talking about what they were eating, and the other one said, but where does fufu go in there? And so that would be habit. That is, you are used to having that all the time. Not saying anything about it. I've never made it, haven't had it. I don't know the complete and utter nutritional value of it. I looked it up once, but I can't remember what it was. So to constantly keep it in your diet, that's habit. Not saying it's good or bad, depends on what's in it. If your habit was to, I don't know, drink duck fat once a week, that's a habit. That would be a bad habit, a very unhealthy habit, but it's a habit. If your habit is to make sure that you have a few servings of broccoli every week, that would still just be a habit. That would be a good habit, but that's just a habit. So anyway, not saying fufu's good or bad habit, because I don't know. And then weight. Good Lord, weight covers a lot of it because you will have people who decide that they're too big. They need to lose weight. So then they start cutting out the most arbitrary things while keeping in the stuff that's actually keeping the weight on. So weird. I'm trying to do mine based on nutrition and health benefits. I have attempted to remove most of my other reasonings other than taste because good Lord, I have to have spice. Have to. But I'm trying to do better. So there you go. All right. The science of nutrition. This is going way longer than I intended, by the way. Nutrition is a science. It really is because it is all about balancing to make sure our body gets everything it needs. That's pretty much what it is. And like all science, we're constantly learning new things and making adjustments. And so when people say, oh, well, they just never know because it used to be this and now it's this. Well, yeah, because we're learning more. That's a good thing. As we learn, we adjust. We have different types of studies in order to make these changes. We've got case studies where they literally follow a case, hence the name. We have the studies based on an entire area. And yes, I totally skimmed over saying that word because epidemiological study. There you go. I have to break it down, do it in little pieces. But this is where they are looking at the entire area, the entire group. Then we have the intervention study. This is what we are going to be doing in this class with yourself. We are doing an intervention study. So for each of you, as you make a change, you're going to see how it affects you throughout the term. And then at the end of the term, you decide what you're going to keep, what you're not. Totally up to you. But that's what we will be doing in this class. And then laboratory study. We're not going to do this, but this is where they literally test it in the lab. So like on mice and other little primates and stuff. All right, I should say other little mammals. Research design terms, correlation, positive or direct, negative or inverse. So correlation, positive is this, negative is this. Controlled clinical trial, It can be experimental and a control group. We've covered this in bio 1, 2, 3. Placebo means you're given something and it might not really be what's supposed to be. Most people know this as having a sugar pill. Then we have blind experiment. That's where you have no idea whether or not you have been given whichever change. And then meta-analysis. I actually legit like the meta-analysis because what this does is you go and you look at all these others and then you put all the information together and compare. Because if you find like 10 or 20 different tests, experiments, whatnot, and you put them all together and find that most of them say this happened, that kind of helps me know that's the right way to go. So I like those. Okay. As ice cream sales increase, so do the number of shark attacks. What is this an example of? I want you to decide what this example is. And well, because I'm about to give you the answer. I was about to turn this into your in-class assignment, but I'm going to do the in-class assignment at the very end of this presentation. So there you go. Think about it. Bam, it's correlation. Because here you see that the sales of ice cream increase the same rate as the shark attacks. But that doesn't mean that the ice cream is causing the shark attacks. So correlation means they happen to happen at the same time. Causation means one causes the other. What happens here? You tend to sell more ice cream in the summertime when it's hot. More people tend to go into the ocean in the summertime when it's hot. Not going to have shark attacks if people aren't in the ocean. So the more people in the water, the higher the number of shark attacks. Hot weather. That's the connection there. So correlation just means they both happen to happen at the same time. Causation is much harder to prove. Causation is more like when they're doing the tests on smoking and lung cancer. So there you go. Nutrition in the media. Goodness, this is a big thing. Nutrition research findings. We have so much sensationalism in the media about nutrition. You have no clue what's real and what's not. So you have to be super duper careful about what you're listening to. I highly suggest whenever you see some big boom, here's the newest, or we all do XYZ and that kind of stuff, dude, due diligence, research it yourself, look for the actual scientific data, scientific articles to back it up. Do not just stick to TikTok or I want to say People Magazine, but I don't even know if People Magazine is still around, if people watch it or read it or any of those things. Don't look at just social media. Look for the actual backing, and you need to find it in more than one location. And when you find the article in multiple locations, make sure that they are basing it on different things. Because sometimes you will find something mentioned like 5 to 10 different places, but then when you look down, every one of them are going back to the one source, and that one source is not valid. So you have to be careful. National Nutrition Research. That's a good one to look at. So this, they take a good look at stuff. Yeah. Changing behaviors. Remember a while ago I said little changes? That's what we're getting to here. So the process of change. Behavior change takes significant effort. It is hard to change anything about yourself. You have 6 stages in order to make a change. We're going to cover over all of these. Biggest thing is to identify the problem and set the realistic goals. Realistic goals, small, achievable. That's why I said for this nutrition diary, we're going to make small changes. And it's going to be a tiny bit at a time. If you try to do everything at once, you doom yourself to fail. That's just all there is to it. You have to have bite-sized pieces. You have to have something tiny to do first that you then can see that you can be successful at it. And then you you just kind of keep adding. So it's small. Here are the stages of behavior change. We have pre-contemplation, where you don't want to do it. Contemplation, where you're like, oh, I guess I do kind of need to change. Most of the people in the class, I think, are in contemplation. They just don't want to. Preparation, this is where you start preparing. You're setting your goals. You're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Action, it's the literally making the change. Maintenance is keeping it. And then adoption and moving on, this is where you no longer do the previous. And it's great. It's like your total new routine. We are going to attempt to do all of these stages in this term, just so you know. So think about a health habit that you are currently working on changing or have thought about changing in the past. Which of these 6 stages are you in when it comes to changing that behavior? How did you get to this stage? What would help move you to the next stage? This I am coming back to in just a moment. So I'm looking to make sure I don't forget which slide number it is. All right, so here we go. A way to judge which food is most nutritious. If you take a look at these 2 pictures, hopefully you can identify which one's a healthier choice. One of them is basically flavored caffeinated water, which is like the nectar of the gods, in my opinion, and sugar and fat. The other one has our nectar of the gods, dairy, which contains protein, eggs, which contains protein. We've got the strawberries, good phytochemicals there. We've got the sausage, not my thing, but if it's a veggie sausage, I would do it. And we've got the wheat toast. Notice there's no butter. The image with the variety, again, variety is much more nutritious. It is a much more balanced meal. Notice it's also not high in bad fats other than that sausage link. The sausage link, not really a good choice. Just gonna throw that. Okay, sorting imposters from real nutrition experts. I kind of already talked about this a second ago, but this gives you some words, some vocab. The diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. People want quick, easy fixes, and there are no quick, easy fixes. So you have lots of people who are willing to sell you on the idea that there is a quick, easy fix. And people will just shell out their money nonstop in order to do it. So we have things called advertorials. If you follow anyone on social media and they are constantly telling you what a great item this particular thing is, look at the hashtag. If they have hashtags and one of them is advertisement, you know, literally they're being paid to tell you this. You can't trust that anymore. Infomercials, dude, we know that's not right. The urban legends crack me up. Oh my God. Anyway, you need to pay attention to the source. Like, is this actually a good source? Is this real? So you have to find credible sources. You have to ask yourself who, when, where, why, and what. Chances are, if it's an article that you're reading and it's telling you how miraculous this item is, or this particular thing is, or this supplement is, and they give you a place where you can purchase it, that's not a trustworthy source anymore. Notice that any scientific article you read does not tell you where to buy stuff. That's because that is biased information. So if you really want to be healthy and a critical thinker, you need to learn how to find what is proper info. Finding true nutrition experts. If you're looking for someone who's an expert, you get the registered dietitian nutritionist. You get the nutrition and dietetics technician. Again, registered. They have to prove themselves. Certified specialist. All of these means you had to show a certain amount of education and you had to take this huge friggin' exam, which is why currently I have the master's in nutritional science, but I have not done the registered part yet because, well, one, I'm trying to find the time to prep for the test, and 2, the test is like $500. So I want to be properly prepared before I drop that kind of money for a test because I don't want to take it more than once. Then you have ones that are known as diploma mills. Big thing here, there are colleges, universities, and stuff that are for profit. Be careful. Just Seriously, be careful. All right, so you have covered all of these different things. This is the end. I'm going back to this one. This self-assessment is your in-class assignment. If you remember on the syllabus, I stated that a portion of your grade is based on an in-class assignment. This is your in-class assignment. I want you to write this down. I want you to pick a health habit, and I want it to have to do with nutrition. I don't want it to be just simply quit smoking or exercise more. Those are good ones, yes. But I want something pertaining to the actual diet, because we're going to use this in your nutrition diary. So I want you to pick something, whether it is you want to lose weight, you want to lower your sugar intake, you want to consume less overly processed foods, whatever. Pick something that you have wanted to change or you've been thinking about changing. Tell me what stage you're in, how you got there, and what's going to help you move to the next stage. That is your in-class assignment. So make sure to get that done. And that is it. Congratulations. We finished the first chapter. Peace out.